Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. I don't know what that pause was, but I'm so glad you guys are all here. It is November 22nd, and just as the broadcast started, someone rang my doorbell. So we'll enjoy some dog barks for just a very short amount of time. Let me give you some announcements while we wait for that. The first thing that I want to share with all of you is that CES is coming up. If you haven't already booked your tickets, gotten your hotel rooms, all that stuff, it's coming up January 5th through the 8th. In Las Vegas. You can come there and visit our booth. We have a huge thing at the Venetian. You'll be able to see a bunch of smart home stuff and talk with a bunch of the folks from our team. So if you're going to CES or maybe you live near Vegas and want to swing by, that would be something I would recommend. Number two, if I can get through all these dog barks, I'm home alone and there's just no solution to this problem right now, is something I've been talking about quite a bit, which is the Artemis mission. If you guys didn't know, I think on Saturday morning around 1 a.m., we launched Artemis finally, and it is en route to the moon. And so if you want to know any more about what's going on with it or what's happening with Alexa in space, you can say your wake word and then take me to the moon. You can follow along with the mission and learn a whole bunch about what's going on there. The last thing, and this is what my next week looks like, is I'm heading to Las Vegas for reInvent. If you aren't familiar with reInvent, it is AWS's big conference about everything related to technology. And I'll be there speaking on Thursday, December 1st. I'm giving a talk called 10 Things Every Voice Application Should Do. Some of you may have seen me give that talk before, but I was very fortunate to get selected to speak at reInvent. And so I will be there actually all week. I'm going to be milling around, talking to developers and doing a bunch of stuff while I'm there. And then also we've got Nikhil Manotra. He's going to be there. He's talking about advances in machine learning that make Alexa sound human-like, and that's on Wednesday at reInvent. So between those two, there's some good content there around Alexa. There's lots and lots of other things. If you think about all the services that happen at reInvent that are related to Alexa development, whether that's Lambda or AI services or DynamoDB or CloudWatch or even S3 buckets, there will be content about all of those services. So I would really recommend, if you're going to be there, make sure you check some of those things out. There's some really good content. I'd love to know in the chat, too, who's going to be there? Can we meet up? Can we say hi? Whatever it is. So please reach out. All right. Now that we've gotten through my announcements, I am super excited to have one of our own here on Office Hours joining us. You may know him as W. Giorgio, but his name is Will Rongholt. And Will Rongholt, sorry. And Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really glad to have you here too. Now, I know you and I have had some opportunities to talk in the past about what you're building and what you're doing, but I thought it was a really good opportunity here to not only have you come in and maybe help answer some of the questions that developers have, but also kind of share some of the things that you're doing. And so as we wait for a bunch of the questions to land, we've got a bunch of great people here already. As I mentioned, some of our regulars are here. Habuma One and A. Witters and Brian Tarbox and Tapster. Gavin Watson is here. And we've got Giles Gills from London. Welcome. Bonnie Snyder, Jawwork is here. I'm glad you guys are all here. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions for Will or any of the things that he's doing as well, we can definitely chat about those. But the first thing I always like to ask people when I have an opportunity to talk to developers is how did you get started? What was the trigger for you that was like, oh man, I want to build stuff for Alexa?
It was interesting. I have been in business for business development, business stuff. Yep. I don't know. It was like right when I got out of the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah. After I got out of the military, I decided I wanted to be my own boss. So I went to school for that and then did that whole thing for about 6+ years. I owned a car wash and detailing center, if anyone was interested. And then I sold that. And then I didn't know what to do. I was like all lost, I guess, running a business and then not working for someone for 6+ years is weird for people. I got a job temporarily and then I went back to school for tech, for software development, actually. And I was really enjoying it. I I kind of did a little HTML ever since high school, but that's about it for my coding experience. And then I found this thing called Alexa. I can say that since it's not my wake word.
Perfect. You just said everybody else's off, though.
Yeah. You're welcome, everyone. And I was like, this is weird. And I was asking my fellow students about it, and no one's really heard of it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start messing around with it. So I just started messing around with it, and I just like got to the JavaScript section of my schooling. I created a like a fact skill or a quiz skill. I can't remember which one was first, but yeah, I created that. I was the unofficial Marvel fact skill.
Whoa.
The first one.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a claim to fame right there.
Yeah. And then I just started. There was many years after I actually did anything with it. After that, I created a small skill called Rainbow Words for my son to learn words, just learn words in general. He was in kindergarten at the time, so now he's in 4th grade. So
it flies, man.
Created,
I've got a freshman in college now, and it's amazing how fast it goes.
It is crazy. Hopefully it'll be a bit for when he gets to college.
Yeah, you still got some time.
And then I think it was during the lockdown, 2020 is when I started streaming, and I also started building a skill while on stream, because inspired by you, Jeff, and the JB Nunn and a bunch of other people that inspired me to stream and also get more into coding. Nice. And I thought it was a good way for me to learn more about my own coding skills if I was doing it live, and trying to figure out the problems live. It's an eye-opener.
So. It is. I've always said that with live coding, you will find out really quick how good you are, because the public, while they can be very kind and engaging, they are also incredibly honest. And so that honesty is something that you have to learn to deal with for sure.
Yeah. Luckily, this community is very nice. It's not like the internet for the most part. So
true.
You don't have any of the horrible people telling you you're horrible.
All right, so that's kind of how you got started. You were back at school. You found Alexa. You kind of got started, and then the thing that really kind of kicked it for you was being home a lot more, I would imagine, as part of the lockdown.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so, if you don't mind me asking, are you working anywhere now, or are you only building skills? What's your current work story?
Yeah, so I work for a company that builds websites for dealerships. There's a few of them out there, but we're a pretty large one. And then I'm like the front end developer, so I create the homepage of the website. And so it's mostly PHP, JavaScript, HTML, nice. CSS, that kind of stuff. But I do actually am working with another company to build a Alexa skill. So awesome. For reasons I can't really mention anything, but it's great that I'm able to utilize my skills with building skills, and actually get paid for it. So it's great.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, obviously you're doing web stuff. I'm sure they taught you a lot of different kinds of platforms when you were in school for this. But what is it about voice that kind of keeps your attention here rather than on something else?
Because it's unique. You have to think differently. For a website, it's pretty easy. A lot of people can build a website. And a lot of people can build voice too, but you have to still think differently than a normal developer to build a voice-driven application. So that's why I like it, and especially building games for voice. It's a whole nother level when just to build games on voice. So.
Have you built games for anything else? Have you built any like web-based games or?
I actually a few, but it's nothing like out in the public. The only way you can get to it is my personal website, which actually I didn't drop a link for that because it's not working temporarily.
Okay.
But yeah, I only have built a Unity game while I was in school. That was neat. And then like a built like a text adventure. So you just go here, go there.
Right.
But it was based off of Fallout. So
okay.
It's pretty neat.
Cool. It's funny how those text adventures have so much similarity to voice.
Yes, exactly.
In how you think about and navigate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. So we talked about, kind of where you've been from and how you've gotten there. And then as we graduate, we find that like voice, at least the reason you're stating is because it's challenging, right? It presents a different set of challenges. By the way, nice plug with the Alexa Live water bottle. That was a nice touch. But as we think about like why you do this, it sounds to me like you like solving unique, different problems, right?
Oh yeah.
The web for the most part has been solved. There isn't like a really big challenge there. Anything I need, I can go find on the web or Stack Overflow or something like that. And it's just where does the button go? Not so much how do I make a button in the first place. Where with voice, it is still incredibly interesting and challenging to think about. Like, I don't have a controlled set of inputs like I do with the web, where I give them two buttons and a link or something. In this case, I've got to solve everything all the time. I've got to think about all the possibilities a user could say. Man, this is really quite a thing. Between the dog barking at the beginning, both my wife and my daughter have called me, and everyone knows that noon on Tuesdays is sacred time. We don't interrupt office hours, so I hope everything's okay. We'll check in just a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing I'd like to know from you then is, and I know this personally, I've played a few of them, but you mentioned games on Alexa. So I'd love to know from your perspective, what are the games you're working on? What's your favorite? And what is the one that you most think our audience would enjoy playing if you wanted to encourage them to do so?
Okay. So actually, that's great because it covers all my skills. What I'm currently working on is actually my first game, which is called Powers Fighter. It first was just called Powers, but I couldn't do that, so I had to put on Fighter. So Powers Fighter was the first one I built while streaming, and I'm redoing the whole fighting game mechanic.
Wow.
To kind of go with the flow of my other games, which I'll get into in a second. But my other games have this new mechanic that is a lot easier for users to play. It's not hard to figure out how to play the game. So I'm making it easier to play Powers Fighter. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think this will be the game to play when it's done, because I actually have animations of the characters fighting and dying and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big overhaul. So I'm working on that right now. My favorite game to play right now is Space Marauders, which is my newest game. It took me over a year to build. I did a lot of the assets myself. I did buy a lot of assets also, but
Sure.
that
was actually something I was gonna ask you, and I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's fine.
You said you've got a bunch of animations for Powers Fighter, and then you've not only created but purchased a bunch of assets for your other games. One of the things I think developers might like to know is where do you buy that stuff? Where's a place that you go to find those kinds of assets?
So I do a lot of stuff with Unity. Like with this most recent Powers overhaul, I have a scene in Unity, and it's a 3D model scene, but I'm using the camera to capture a video of the scene, and then I'm going to put it in the background of my characters. And so
Nice.
I'll actually have a moving scene like you all see on Mortal Kombat or all those other fighting games.
Yeah.
But it'll be a video, MP4 playing in the background. So
That's
mostly I do get a lot of stuff from Unity. It is 3D models a lot, but you can get 2D models from there as well. And then I will either port it into Unity, the Unity engine, or I will take the asset. It'll be like a FBX asset, and I'll put it into Blender, and then I will do something with it in Blender. And sometimes I will render it. When I say render, that means make an image of the model.
Okay.
Like I did in Space Marauders. I'll render the image and utilize the image for the asset. Like Space Marauders is an inventory-based game. So you keep on getting new inventory to better your stats. And each image of each inventory type was rendered either in Blender or another rendering thing. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. I didn't mean to derail you. So you were just kind of starting to talk about Space Marauders and some of the cool stuff you were doing. So I'll let you keep going.
Yeah. So Space Marauders is my favorite one, mainly because I put so much effort into it. And I think it's fun. It can be challenging for a lot of people because it's just some monsters are harder than the others. But I also have a difficulty rating that you say if they are available, which I actually have APIs that I built to that just runs a Lambda every 10 minutes, every 50 minutes, whatever. And it will spew out different monsters wherever, whatever planet you're on at the time. So, yeah. So I really enjoyed building that. And then I think the hot commodity game right now that a lot of people that really enjoy playing, which also has many updates coming, is Cards of Wonder. And many people already know I always talk about Cards of Wonder on here, but it is so easy to get into. A lot of people enjoy collecting the cards. I still do like holiday cards. So we just had, Halloween. So I had a special card for Halloween that it was themed for Halloween. I'll have a Christmas card or winter card. as well when we get into December. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. So Cards of Wonder. If you had to compare any of these games to something else, are there any inspirations that you drew from to create these?
Oh man. Well, there. Cards of Wonder is just. I wanted to build a. I actually built it for my chat for Twitch.
Nice.
So I built Cards of Wonder for Twitch just to entertain people while they're watching me code. I eventually took that down, but then I made it into a skill. So that is the only way that the only thing that inspired me to make it into a skill is it was for my Twitch chat. But for Powers Fighter, obviously, is kind of obvious. It's any fighting game. I play a lot of fighting games, and I suck at all of them. But I still enjoy them. And my newest one, Space Marauders, that would be stuff like Marvel Avengers. I'm blanking on it, but there's another inventory game that I used to play quite a bit. I think it was a Tom Clancy's one.
I feel like there's a couple interesting Marvel games on mobile. Or are you thinking more like console?
A console or PC. But it was like a Tom Clancy builder, I believe, or not builder, inventory game. I can't. It starts with a D, but I don't know.
That's right. That's right. It's there's so many out there, man. It's hard to
There
remember.
It is. And I'm horrible at names.
So that I think that's one of the things that I've always been motivated to try. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, and I don't know what the restrictions are around things like copyrights and trademarks. Well, I mean, I do know the rules around those specific things, but as an example, I've always heard that the rules of a board game are not copyrightable. The game itself is all the art, the assets, and the example that always gets used is like Monopoly. So you can't go build a game that looks exactly like Monopoly, but you can build a game that has almost identical rules with your own unique board, your own unique pieces and cards and whatever. And I've always thought about how I want to use that as an inspiration for the next big thing that I build. I have a library of probably 200 board games in my house. My family and my friends and I all really love playing board games together. And it feels like there's an opportunity to do something like that. Now, of course, would I love to be the official skill of that actual board game? Yeah, of course. But it's unlikely that they're going to employ me to go do that.
Right.
But the game mechanics, all the things that make the game great, could be translated to a different idea or model or theme or whatever. And there's just so many fantastic board games that I think would work pretty well with voice. And I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. But I just wondered if there were like specific inspirations, like a couple of games you mentioned that are kind of things you've used and like, oh, I like this mechanic, I like the way this piece works. There's one board game most people on this broadcast probably have not played, but it's called Eclipse, and it's a what they call a 5X game. There's 5 different kinds of activities you can participate in. You can upgrade your ships, you can expand into space, all this other cool stuff. And I think honestly it would be pretty easily to translate. You'd need a lot of good graphics and visual representations so you can see the board and where things are, but I feel like from a voice perspective, it would be pretty easy to translate. And so I just wondered if there are other examples of this maybe in our audience or things you've thought about, Will, that are kind of those inspirational moments for you about, man, I really like this game, or I like the way this piece works. I want to try and build something like that.
Yeah, there is actually one that came to mind while you were talking. It's a game called Marvel Snap. It's a new game that just came out last month, I believe. I've been playing it daily, and it's
Wow.
crazy how much I play it. This is like probably the most played game I've ever done. It's a mobile game, but it's a card game, and it's also kind of like Cards of Wonder, but I really like that they only give you one of the card. So you get one of the card and not multiple of the same card. So it's more of a collecting game then.
Got it.
And that's kind of what I wanted to do with Cards of Wonder, but I didn't. So I'm going to, though, on this new one, new update is have it only where you get one of said card. And if you get that again, I'm trying to think of a mechanic that you could upgrade your card. In this game, it just upgrades the look of the card. So that's not really what I would like to do, but I have some thoughts.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what you build.
Yeah.
All right. Now is the time, and I want to continue talking to you about skill building and some of the issues maybe you've run into. If you have any, you have the air here. So if there's frustrating things or issues that you just wish we could dig in deeper to, now's your time to air those. But I will.
Nice.
I want to scroll back and make sure that I haven't missed anything. So we've got a few people saying Happy Thanksgiving, including Bonnie on Twitch. Jal works here from the UK. Bondad is here. It's always good to see Bondad. Brian Tarbox had a question. He said, I've asked in chat, but what do I have to do so that Send to Phone creates a visible notification that something is available in the Alexa app? So I think what Brian is suggesting is that I use Send to Phone to send a notification to a user, and I want a little red 1 to appear on the Alexa app's icon, and I don't think it does that today. So the questions Brian's asking is, what do I have to do? So I'm going to answer it as deliberately as I can, which is, 1, if you haven't already added this to user voice, excuse me, I want to make sure that that is the first place that it lands. We now have a team of people that are focused on managing and recording everything that happens in user voice and providing that to the product team on a regular basis. In fact, all of the results from, I think it's the last 2 weeks, I just got an email this morning that was the latest update on what's happening in user voice. So that is a place that if you're not spending time adding features that you want to, please do, because that's the place for that. I also totally dropped the ball on this. When I mentioned CES at the very beginning of the broadcast, I wanted to make sure that I shared that if you want to see everything that we're doing at CES, developer.amazon.com/CES. We have a whole page and information dedicated to it there. Okay, so let's get back to the comments and see if there's anything else. Brian, I've starred your message. I'm going to make sure that that's passed along to our product team. But I don't believe that there is a way specifically to just do that magically today. Amanda, who is our new community manager, she was on a couple weeks ago. Will, she loves your Deadpool shirt, so that's a win for you. She hasn't said a thing about my shirt, but that's fine. I won't take it personally. Oxygen Box says it's been fun to watch you progress as an Alexa developer. #superstar. So that's a nice vote of confidence. We were talking earlier about the community and how really we haven't had the negativity that we see in a lot of other developer communities or just online communities in general.
Yep.
And Malero pointed out that the trolls just haven't found ours yet. Hopefully that won't happen, but you never know.
Yes, I agree.
We've got Dana Voice here and David Curley. When we were talking about playing games, Dana Voice said, I sometimes wish I enjoyed games, but then again, what better game is there than programming? It is a challenge, right? There's not nearly the achievements or the winning so much as the adventure and the problem solving and the strategy. I very much agree with that. But I think that Habuma mixed into this, which is why not both? He said he has a healthy mix of programming, board game playing, and Disney visiting in his life.
Nice.
That sounds like a pretty healthy distribution. But yeah, you should have lots of things to do. I mean, coding is fun, but I don't spend every waking minute doing it. I spend a lot of time doing it. Okay.
Yeah, I actually have to back away from the computer
Mhm.
and go play on my PlayStation or something like that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I will want to create something for a game or something like that, or
right.
develop. Even though I enjoy my computer because it's a nice computer and I enjoy playing games on it, but I just need to step away.
Yep. It's a hard thing I think for people that aren't programmers to understand too, because I will sit down at my desk sometimes and it's like, it's like 6 o'clock, the kids are out, I've got nothing else to do. I'm like, I'm just gonna get a little coding done.
Mhm.
And then I blink and it's 2 a.m. And I'm like, how did that happen? Where did all this time go? I was having fun, I was making progress, I was building cool things. And I think it's hard for a lot of other people in other professions to understand that, because our jobs can be so incredibly mentally engaging. You've got all, like, I always describe it to my wife as like, you've got all these things kind of floating above your head. And when my phone rings or this door opens, all of them fall to the ground. And then I've got to spend like 20 or 30 minutes like reassembling and getting them all floating up there again so that I can continue to make crazy progress.
Mhm.
But it's fun, right? Like,
It is.
getting the computer to do the thing you want will
Mhm.
never not be an amazing experience.
Mhm.
And
Agree.
I feel like there's a lot of people in other professions that are just missing out on that. A lot of people are there because I'm doing this because I get money, and they just keep reminding themselves that, like, that's why I do my job. But like,
Mhm.
I program for fun, right? Like you said, like, you build stuff on the side and you sit down and have an 8-hour coding session on a Tuesday, just because the time escaped you and you were making a bunch of progress and it was fun. So I think, I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but I really enjoy it quite a bit.
I also have to agree with Malero. SQS gamifies Alexa skill development.
Yeah, it really, it's an interesting game, right? Once you have a skill quality score, then it's like, what can I do to make it 3.9? What can I do to make it
Yep.
4.2, right?
Hmm.
And they give you tips and ideas and
Yep.
recommendation, which is even better. It's like achievements, pre achievements, right? Go do this thing, your
Hmm.
score will go up. Um, it is kind of fun. And then obviously with the SQS comes um, the potential for rewards too, right? Like, oh man, I'm
Hmm.
actually getting some money because of this. This is even better. So yeah, agreed. Daniel Johnson also mentioned the rules of a game are much like the steps in a recipe. You can't copy the steps word for word, but as he said, like, each player starts with 5 cards, can quickly begin by dealing each player 5 cards. I think that's incredibly accurate. Exactly, kind of how I was thinking about it, which is that I have a set of rules, but my game's going to be different in a number of ways, and I may even add new mechanics. But the core idea of how this thing works, or there's these 5 different aspects, and how do I change those into something that's new or different or interesting? I agree.
Hmm. For sure.
All right. David Curley says, I agree with Dana Voice. He was talking about Dana Voice saying, I spend all my time programming. David Curley says, it's good to know it's not just me. Agreed. Let's see. Gavin Watson said, coding is one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. Executing that code when you finish and watching it work is awesome. Finding and fixing bugs for hours and hours, not as fun.
No, it's not.
No, I agree. And for any of you that have watched me or will code live in public, you see that, right? Like, eventually I just get beaten down. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to call it for today. We're not going to get this thing working. But other times, and especially in my recent streams, it's been remarkable. Like, I sit down, I code a whole module with zero testing, right? Go build this, build this, build this. And I'm like, all right, let's see if it's going to run. And then it works. And I'm like,
What?
how is that even possible?
That's crazy.
It's nice to get surprised when something will work.
That is not the case with my new addition for powers.
No? Well,
No.
Greenfield, I think it's easier. When you're modifying something that already existed, it's so easy to break something that you weren't even
Oh
working
yeah.
on, right? And
Mhm.
if you're like every great developer I've ever met, maybe you have some tests in there, but you certainly don't have full test coverage. So you
No.
don't
No.
always have the full confidence that you want to have about, like,
Mhm.
all right, I changed this line, everything still works. Yeah, that's
Yep.
just It's an unfortunate part of coding. You want to go fast, but ultimately it will save you a ton more time in the long run if you do write all those tests. And so I'm a big testing evangelist. I believe that testing is important to all of it, but like anybody, I have my weaknesses too. Do you have you done any unit testing in your skills? I'm curious to know if that's something that you've done at all.
No,
that's fine. It's not a bad answer. I was just curious. I'd be interested to know if anybody else is focused on that. I for a while was really focused on building a bunch of tests in a tool like Postman. Have you used Postman? Just simple web calls, right? So I use Postman. I would set up API gateway, and that API gateway would talk to my Lambda function. And so then I could write a whole bunch of tests in Postman, run them through the API gateway to my Lambda function, and then I could verify based on this input, did I get this output?
Nice.
And it was okay, but it still didn't really, it was still independent contextual testing. I couldn't test three steps into a chain very easily without having to copy and paste all of the requested objects for each of those steps, and then I could test them individually. But that was always a real challenge for me. And so I wish there were better ways to do that. Our tools don't give us a fantastic way to run any kind of internal testing other than against your model. But even that doesn't have any contextual stuff, right? It's still very much, the model treats every interaction as if it's the first time you've ever spoken with it.
Right.
Brian Tarbach says he got all the way up to 4.0, but he has no recommendations currently. That's impressive if you got to a place where there's no recommendations.
I'm actually at Cards of Wonder is 4.3.
That's a good score.
And I don't have any recommendations either. But I Brian Tarbach, continue bettering your skill, even if it's a small change here and there. Push them up. Actually, send it to QC, and that will increase, not guaranteed, but it might increase your skill score.
I love it. I love that there's a secret behind the scenes, like gamification strategy, right? Like what I found is the more I submit my skill, the higher my score is. That's not a thing that is in anything I've read about how the system works. And I don't have a lot of information or knowledge. I mean, I'm aware of what it is and the core concepts, but I haven't seen like the algorithms behind the scenes on what gets you a 4 versus a 4.2 or anything like that. Yeah. But I'd love to know if you guys have other observations about what makes your score go up or down, because I would imagine there are probably behaviors that also make it go down. I don't know what those are, but I'd be interested to know what you guys identify as patterns.
Just if you aren't doing anything with it, like Powers Fighter, I don't know if it's continually going down, but it's dropped a few points since the beginning. Yeah, if it's a stale skill, it will continue to go down, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, a few other discussion points here. Gavin said his partner says his coding for 5 minutes is 5 hours in real human time. Yeah, I get that. I just got to finish this one thing. And then bugs and errors and whatever. The voice dev said SQS is way too generic in his opinion, her opinion. I don't want to assume gender there, but the voice dev, SQS is way too generic. How would you make it less generic? The voice dev, I'd love to know. I'd love your feedback. We are an open, collaborative community here. Let's figure out how to make it better for everyone. Dana Voice said, I don't suppose the Alexa store has any possibility now. I think Dana Voice is probably referring to the recent layoffs and announcements that have gone on around Alexa. That doesn't necessarily affect anything. I think that you'll see that we are still forging forward. I'm still here on office hours. We're still going to CES and a reInvent and all sorts of other things. And I just finished a document planning out what's happening for 2023. So I'm still very optimistic about where we're headed and what we're doing and what the next steps are for Alexa. So yeah, we've hit some hiccups and yeah, there's projects that are abandoned. But I'm still very high on the idea. Bullish, I think is the word. about where the future of Alexa is. So I'm not too terribly worried about it.
That's good to hear.
I hate to see, friends and colleagues that I've known for years have to find something else, but honestly, a lot of people are finding jobs internally even. So it's a good process all around.
Good.
Gavin also says, if I get stuck on a piece of code, my best advice is to walk away and come back to it. Typically, I find the next day I find the problem in a few minutes that I couldn't see for hours the previous day. I totally agree with this. This is, I generally have a rule that I won't fight a bug for more than about 30 minutes before I walk away. And I literally walk away. I'll just go for a walk in the neighborhood or get in the car and go get something or whatever, just to shift my mind. And instantly I'll find that thing will pop right in. And if you can go take a nap or a full night's sleep or a shower, those things also tend to solve a lot of problems for me. I don't have one in there anymore, but I used to have, we remodeled our shower and I don't want to do this anymore, but I had a dry erase marker that I just kept in the shower.
Really?
So I could just write things on the wall or the glass, knowing it would wipe away, so that I would remember the thing that I just solved in the shower.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody does shower powered programming, but sometimes that worked really well for me.
I definitely do. I was going to mention the shower and taking a walk. It definitely gets your mind going.
Got it. Dana Boy says he does do Wordle every day. That's good. And if I can give a little shout out, there's a fantastic similar kind of game called Framed. Have you played Framed, Will?
Mm-mm.
So Framed, the idea behind this one is I think the website is framed.wtf. I love that that's a TLD, WTF, but framed.wtf is the website. And what they do is they give you one still image from a movie.
Okay.
And you have to guess what the movie is.
Oh.
If you don't get it, but you get 6 guesses. And so if you don't get it on your first guess, they give you a second frame.
Okay.
And then they give you a third frame. And by the third or fourth frame, you usually see some notable actor from that thing. Like there was one, I think it was yesterday's. There was one where I don't want to spoil it. I don't remember if it was today's or yesterday's. Anyway, there was one where the very first frame was the car from Wayne's World. Do you guys remember that movie? They had like this little blue like hatchback that they drove all around town in it. And I just happened to, like, it was just a scene with a street and very small. You could see the blue car kind of in the shot. And I was like, that's got to be Wayne and Garth's car. And so I guessed Wayne's World and I got it right on the first guess.
Wow. Okay.
But that's not common. Usually it takes you 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I've got many of them on 6. 6 is usually, if you've seen the movie, the 6th picture is hands down obvious. If you haven't seen the movie, it's not going to help you either. But sometimes it's like a really clear shot of the main character in their main costume that you probably even saw in like the movie poster or whatever. So you're pretty clear by the 6th one who it is. But anyway, I really enjoy that game. That's my before I get out of bed, spend 3 minutes playing a game.
Yeah, we're gonna check that out.
I like that one. And there's another one called. There's another one that does TV shows, and it's made by the same people, and so they give you stills of a episode of a TV show, and so you not only have to know what show it is, but if you can figure out the episode, also I think you get 10 guesses on that one.
Wow.
Okay, so Brian Tarbock says for a score killer, high fallback, so anything where you're hitting your fallback intent frequently, that is a bad thing. Dana Boy said that SQS was telling him to add APL to a blueprint skill. That seems like a miss because you can't add APL to a blueprint skill. But that's good feedback. Let me add that to the thing. Well, I'll share that with the SQS team. Okay, Naveed on LinkedIn has a question. I have a problem with Alexa. Maybe it's not in this topic, but it's horrible if I ask Alexa what the latest news about Iran is, and she says there is no news about Iran. Everybody talks about Iran and Ukraine, and Alexa doesn't have any news. Very disappointing from Amazon and Alexa. I agree. Here's my thought on this, and I'm not defending this because I feel like we live in a international world, and it's not. I don't think it's beneficial to anyone to live in a very geocentric kind of focus. But my suspicion is that if you had a device and it was set up for countries in the Middle East like Iran or Israel or something like that, that there probably would be curated news for that country. I would guess if I ask it for the latest United States news, it would have something. But it's possible that they've decided to geolocate that, which I don't know that makes a ton of sense, but that might be a possibility, that there is news of that regard. I'm gonna mark this though. We'll ask some people. We'll see what we can find. I don't know that I have a solution to this, because there's two steps to this. One is, how do we get this to work? But if it's not something that's done today, then we also have to figure out, where do we curate this news from, and how do we classify and catalog it, and how do we feed it out to customers? That takes longer. But Naveed, one of the things I would mention, I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, but I can't say it enough. We do have a place where you can ask for things exactly like this. And I've lost my link. It's here somewhere. Alexa.design/user voice. If you go there, you can actually add this as a recommendation. Like, hey, I'm asking for news about a country I care very much about. Please, can you find ways to make it easier for me to find the news I want? Iran is obviously something that I'm paying more attention to than normal, because they are in the same group as Wales, England, and the United States in the World Cup. And so those 4 teams, I'm very interested in paying attention a lot to what's going on with those 4 teams, because I want my team to come out victorious. But you got to pay attention to all that. Did anybody watch the game yesterday? Love to know. I only watched the last 20 minutes of it. 10 of it was penalty time. But it was 1-1 going into that, and it ended up being a tie. So a tie's good. Tie's better than a loss. But ultimately, you got to get out of this group, and I don't know that the United States is going to be able to do it. We'll see. Okay. Brian Tarbox says coffee, whiskey, shower equals insight. Wow. Now I'm wondering though, if he's going the full way, where you take the coffee and you mix the whiskey into it, and then take that mug into the shower. That feels like maybe a new life hack I haven't seen before.
No, thank you. I'll pass on that.
Yeah, I agree. Fengam says, just ask Alexa to take a note when you have a thought. Even works when you have an idea and wake up. That sounds pretty cool, actually. I haven't done that before. Does that work? Have you done that, Will?
I have not.
Let's try that. Alexa, take a note.
Okay, what should the note say?
Make sure to check out W. Giorgio's Alexa skills.
You wanted to say make sure to check out W. Giorgio's Alexa skills, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've saved your note.
Wow.
I know why I haven't played with this a ton, and it may just appear here. That is one of the sticky notes that you see on a device like this.
Yeah.
And so I don't see my sticky notes. See if we can find that here quickly. Sticky. Add it. Okay, did I do it? Did it work? No. Okay, so let's go home. And boom. Show me my other sticky notes.
Did it just change or no?
No, it still just says try this. So if I open it, that's just creating a sticky. Where did the one I just created go? I haven't played with that before, but that's going to have to be something I do here again. All right, we only have 11 minutes left.
Time flies when you have fun.
Malero says framed would make a fun Alexa skill. I agree. I think, again, as you think about all of these things, there's always one aspect of it that's really hard. Where are you getting the stills from the movies? Are you going to go steal them from somewhere? That seems like a bad choice.
Well, if you screenshot something, I think it's okay. But that's a lot of screenshots.
Yeah, now you've got to have 6 unique screenshots that get from hard to easy. For each move, each day, you have to create that new thing. This is where I would always be like, I should just reach out to Framed and see if I could partner with them and use their content every day.
Yep.
But then it becomes a question like, why would they do that? And then I'm monetizing their content. Like it becomes
Mhm.
messy. So, all right.
That's one thing I would really love to know how to do is how to partner with like you see it with a lot with games. Like in Assassin's Creed, you can get um, uh, I'm blanking on the other game, but you can get like stuff from other games in Assassin's Creed. Oh, you
Oh,
can get like a Witcher
yeah.
uniform or whatever
Yeah.
outfit to for your Assassin's Creed game, but they're pulling it from Witcher, which is a totally different game
Publisher,
developer.
right? Yeah. It's
Yeah,
completely separate.
so I
My,
would
my
love to
thought,
learn how to do that.
my thought on that is that it's probably facilitated by the console. So like Xbox is reaching out to both of them and saying, hey, we want to do a
Oh,
cool
okay.
thing. You guys need to share assets or whatever it is, and then we'll promote it and it'll be super cool. And both of you will see a bump in playership or whatever. That's my suspicion there.
All right, well, there you go.
So I guess in that case, that's
I
us.
hand it off to you.
One of the here I'll share an idea with you. Maybe the community can do this because I don't think that I'm going to be able to pull this together on our side. I thought it would be super cool to put together a developer scavenger hunt, not a developer scavenger, a Alexa user scavenger hunt, but it's created.
I don't know that.
Okay, it's created by like let's say it's 30 or 50 different skill developers, each embedding a new unique intent and utterance inside their skills that has nothing to do with their skill at all. And so someone's like, there's a beginning to it, right? Someone says, okay, we've got this scavenger hunt idea. And you start there and it says, okay, the next step is you need to say, let's call it powers to a skill that is a fighting game. Right. And so now people are like, well, which game is it? And so then you start like going through the store and you're like, which skill could it be? And you're like, oh, there's actually one called Powers Fighter. Okay, I'm going to try that. And you open the skill and maybe Powers is a bad example. Maybe they say something like Radish or, something that wouldn't be part of your game schema already. But they go into your skill and they say the thing. And then your skill is like, hey, you just hit the next step of the scavenger hunt.
Nice.
And then your skill provides a clue to where the next thing is and the next thing and the next thing, right? And it becomes this this tour through a bunch of awesome skills where people are going to enable them, they're going to engage with them, they're going to hear a little bit about what the skill is, right? All of that stuff. But then they also are trying to solve this scavenger hunt that's kind of like hidden throughout the Alexa ecosystem. I think it would be really fun. But it is ultimately it comes down to a bunch of developers, one wanting to participate, two being willing to implement that, and then coordinating that all together with some master skill that is probably the start and end of the whole thing.
Wow,
cool idea.
That's
Right?
a good idea.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I did. It doesn't exist anymore, although there may be like some Wayback Machine archives of this. With a few friends of mine, we created something. This was probably in like 2011, maybe earlier, maybe 2008, called the toughest developer puzzle ever. And the website was tdpe.com, toughest developer puzzle ever. And it was the same idea. You landed on this one page, and there was no clues at all about what to do. But in the source code, there was just a random URL. And so if you went to the source code and you found the URL, that took you to another page, and that page took you to another page, and on and on. And we embedded it everywhere. I even convinced Woot, the website Woot, to participate. And so they were step like 8 of 25 or something like that. And on step 8, you actually went to a hidden but real product page on the Woot website, which was a T-shirt that had the logo of the competition. You could buy it from Woot right there and do all that stuff, but also they embedded a bunch of stuff in the source code.
Nice.
Because it wasn't just like find the URL in the source and go. It was often like look in the source code and, oh, by the way, it's just like a pattern of numbers. And you need to figure out what those numbers mean or why they're meaningful. Or we had one where there was a video. It was just a video embedded on a page. And you you had to watch it, but you really had to listen to it. There was Morse code happening in the background of the video.
What?
Right. And so you had to like listen to the Morse code, and then it was, like I said, toughest developer puzzle ever. We wanted to put it everywhere. We also had an image that just looked like a broken image, but it was just not rendering because we had added metadata inside the actual binary of the image. And so if you crack that image open in a text editor, you'd see all the garbage that is the image. And then at the bottom, there was just like, oh, by the way, right. So it was meant to really test your knowledge of
that is crazy.
All of the bits and working pieces of the web.
Nice.
Anyway, that was a long story, and we have a few minutes left. Let's see. The voice dev wants to know why it's suggesting a feature with relation to a metric in the skill. Recorded. I'll add that. Is there a way for a user to completely remove a skill? Disable doesn't seem to work. Well, you can't ever remove a skill. I think you can disable it, but if you say the enabling phrase, the invocation phrase, it would start it up again. You're almost looking for the ability to block a skill. I'll add that as a reference, but that might be something interesting to add to user voice as well, which I still have here on the screen. Okay, David Curley has a question, and then we are at the bottom of our list here. I'm testing a new skill whose whole purpose is to create a document based on a dialogue with the user. That's it. The document is then delivered on request, send it to me is the utterance, to the account holder by email. Do you see any obvious certification issues with the fact that the final output isn't voice, but a document? No, David, I don't think this will be an issue at all. Technically, I think it's going to be pretty hard for you to capture, unless you have, again, I don't know anything about what your document is, but let's say that you want a user to fill out a form, which is really the same idea. You could have the user, let's say they're filling out like a job application. I'm just using this as an example to illustrate. But you could say, okay, what's your first name? And they say Jeff. And you go, cool, I heard Jeff. All right, next question. What is your last name? And they say Blankenburg. And you're like, I've never heard of that name. That's crazy. But you could go through the whole form. You could say, what you think about any form you filled out, right? What is your nationality? What is your gender identity? What is all the stuff, right? And then at the end, you could say, okay, I filled out the form for you and I've emailed you a copy. That seems like a totally legitimate use case to me. Unless you're doing something questionable or you're trying to capture long swaths of text, I think you're good. That the real challenge is that Alexa is not designed or designated for dictation, especially in third-party skills. And so that's the only real challenge I think you'll have is like if you wanted somebody to read a couple of passages from a book, you're not going to get them. Like that's just going to be too chunky. So hopefully that happens. But as far as certification goes, we do have the DAG team here. So DAG just my developer advocacy group just replied to FangElm about removing a skill. But I think based on the question they asked about a user removing a skill, I believe a developer, and the answer that they gave here on Twitch is excellent, which is that you can go to your skill, you can choose remove, and you can remove it from the skill store. But that's if you created the skill. I think the question was, how do I remove a skill or block a skill if I didn't make it? I just don't want to ever access it again. That I can see cases where it might conflict with something else. And so I just never want that one. I always want this one so that there isn't any confusion anymore. I could see a request for that. But so we're almost at time. I'm going to turn my little banner off. And I want to ask you, Will, is there anything else before we wrap here that you want to share or ask people to check out before we go?
No,
that's okay. Are you still streaming on Twitch?
Yeah. Oh, yes. My bad. Yeah. Check out our stream. We are doing a podcast / stream with me and Kevin Evans. We're doing it. It's called Between Two Beans. It's we just talk about voice. So nice. It's great. We kind of cover some of the stuff that also gets covered here, but is between us two, just talking about it. So we've been doing it for almost a year. It'll be a year in January, I guess.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, I've definitely listened to a few of the episodes. And if you guys ever want me to join you on there again, I think I had an opportunity to talk with you once, but if you ever would like to chat again, I'm always down for a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And we definitely do also a developer our preview or kind of spotlight deal also that we've been enjoying. So we will sometimes have developers also come on and just talk about themselves. So
nice.
It's fun.
All right. Well, we are out of time, everybody. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And certainly, Will, I want to thank you for being here. I always enjoy our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I always learn something new, see something that you're looking at a little differently than I am. So it's great. For those of you here in the United States, please have a safe and enjoyable Thanksgiving holiday. We will be back next Tuesday. I'm going to find someplace cool and maybe scenic to do office hours from at reInvent. Hopefully it's quiet also. We'll see if we can pull all those things off at once. But for those of you that are going to be in reInvent, reach out to me. I'm Jeff Blankenburg on literally every social media you can find. And I'd love to hear from you. And if you're going to be in Vegas, I'd love to meet up with you. So with that, we're going to sign off. Thanks again, Will. And we will see everybody very soon.
Bye, everyone.